hip hop has a massive album problem. And honestly, it's not just in hip hop. This is throughout pop music. You look at the recent Taylor Swift album, and what I'm talking about is the longer the album, the more streams you get and the more money you make. There's so many examples of this, and it happens a lot in hip hop. And there's also another problem just besides the length of a track list. It's also just artists consistently dropping slop and bad albums. I'll first start with the length, and the more longer your album, the more money you're going to make, the longer you're going to be on top of the charts. Drake's last album, perfect example of that. He knew that he had some hits on there, whether it be the Yeet song, the Sexy Red song, or even the intro. Like, I think there's still art in making an intro with hip hop albums. I think hip hop artists still take that pretty seriously. We want to start the album off on a great note. And so, yeah, with that last Drake album, Virginia Beach was a great opener, but he had the hits on the album, and he knew that those were going to blow up on TikTok. They were going to get so many streams, but he wanted to make the track list longer so he could make more money. So he put a lot of slop on that album. You can't defend For All the Dogs with most of the track list. It's like an hour and a half in length, and majority of the track list is just slop material with the few hits that did well on TikTok or radio, whatever the case may be. We Still Don't Trust You, the Future and Metro Boomin album, same case, just certain songs that they knew were going to do well, but majority of the track list is pretty slop. And I think this is intentional with a lot of albums coming out recently is, okay, maybe the record label is actually pushing these artists to make super long albums. Like, okay, well, even if this is the throwaway, just put it in the middle of the track list, it'll bump the streams up. Maybe some people will like it. Like, that's a terrible approach to an album, to just have an incentive of making money. I made a video, my last video was on this, basically Logic saying he's going to make new music just for money. And I completely disagree with that approach. I think, yeah, it's a major problem in hip hop. And also looking at that Taylor Swift album, The Tortured Poets Department, that's the exact same case. That album track list is super long, with the certain cases of like a Fortnite with Post Malone. She knew that song was going to do well. She knew it would perform. So she wanted the album to be longer so that she could stay on the charts for longer. And I'm pretty sure it worked. I'm pretty sure Tortured Poet Department has done super, super successfully, and maybe one of her best selling albums. And I'm not saying I'm against long albums. There's been cases where long albums that have two different sides to them do super well and are great albums. Like Tupac, All Eyes on Me. That's a great album, and it's almost like 2 hours long or something. Like, that whole track list is great all throughout. But I just have a problem with putting slop for money purposes and bumping streams up. Like, you're going to diminish the fact of this is going to be a cohesive and good listen of an album. Like, there's a lot of cases like that We Still Don't Trust You, the Future and Metro Boomin album from this year. There's so many good songs on that album that if you shorten the track length to like even like 50 minutes, like that's still a pretty decently long album. 50 minutes, you just shorten it to that, and I think that would have been up there with We Don't Trust You. There's just, why it gets bumped down from We Don't Trust You is because there's slop on there. There's so many forgettable songs that are just there to boost streams. I may be wrong on this, correct me in the comments, but I think Donda kind of set this trend of super long albums with slop. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Donda kind of set that trend. But moving on from the long album conversation, I think there's another problem with hip-hop albums. And actually, I feel like originally this wasn't a big problem in hip-hop and was actually a really positive thing when it came to the genre. Like, what I'm talking about is artists dropping multiple projects in a year that aren't good and just slop, and just kind of to feed fans and just give them a few songs to pick out from the album. I think this started out as a positive thing. Like, I look at someone like a Gucci Mane who would release mixtapes in between albums to be like, okay, this will hold over the fans until then. But like Babytron, for example, he's been dropping consistently throughout the year. And I'm not the biggest Babytron fan in general, but I listened to his newest album and like, it was terrible. Like, I don't know why you would want to keep releasing multiple consistent projects throughout the year if they're not going to be quality. Like, I don't know what the point of that is. To make money, yes, I understand that, and that is the point of it, but I don't understand it from an artistic point to just keep dropping sloppy albums with maybe a few good songs that will make it on Rap Radar or whatever. I think it's also become evident that a lot of hip-hop artists, and this is kind of going into a different conversation, I'll stop ranting in a few minutes, but I think there's also a big problem that has come to light recently. Like, Polo G dropped an album and nobody cared. People realized with Polo G that he has one song, the piano G type beat. He has that one sound, and he can't really go past that. DaBaby's another example of that. He released an album this year as well, and like nobody cared. It's just, that's another problem in it of itself of just an artist perfected a certain sound and then they kept doing it and then they kept releasing project after project and then after a while nobody cared. But I'm getting off topic, and I kind of wanted to make this video just to emphasize the point of I don't want any more long albums. I don't want any more slop in hip hop albums. I want an artist like Kendrick Lamar who releases every few years. I want artists to really take their time with albums, and that's kind of my point of this video is take your time with albums and make the album enjoyable for the fan. Like that seems like a pretty obvious thing. Don't make us like waiting to go to bed and like almost falling asleep to your album because it's super long and the tracks are boring. I've had so many instances of that this year with like We Still Don't Trust You. I was honestly like, I loved the first couple songs and then the end it picked up again. But towards the middle of that track list, I was getting sleepy. Like I was yawning for real. So yeah, I just want artists to take their time with albums and not put any slop on there. It's pretty obvious. But let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think I'm crashing out, ranting, whatever? I'm going to stop making negative videos. I've made 2 negative videos in a row now. I want to get back to more fun stuff. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below.